My name is Manohar. I'm from B section, third sem, CSC department. Today I'm going to explain about the DDCO assignment, which is input-output organization, accessing input-output devices, as well as the interrupts and interrupts hardware. So first, looking into introduction of input-output organization. Input-output organization is a crucial for managing data flow within a computing system. It involves a transfer of data between central processing unit as well as the peripheral devices. Uh, let's look into the basics of accessing input-output devices. There may be two major uh, important factors that affects input-output devices that are data transfers, control signals. Accessing input-output devices involves a difficult, efficient data transfer mechanism to ensure seamless communication between the CPU and external peripherals. Control signals. Interacting with the input-output devices requires a clear understanding of control signals for proper devices management and a data exchange. So, accessing an input-output devices means nothing but the transfer of data from the devices which are connected to the main part of the computer as well as the CPU to the devices. Uh, so types of input-output devices. Input devices are nothing but like keyboard, mouse, scanners, anything which an user can entering a data into the computer, as well as the output devices. Anything, the information that is giving out from the computer to the users, which may be efficient way with dealing with the computers. And there comes the storage devices. There may be hard drives, solid state drives, as well as the optical disc are common storage devices used to read and write the digital storage media. So coming to the interrupts, and interrupts are nothing but the signals which are generated from the, the peripheral devices which are connected to the central processing unit, which are running through an infinite loop and doing nothing useful. So interrupts are signals generated by hardware devices to request the attention of the CPU. Definitely CPU will be assigning some works to the devices which are connected. When the hardware devices needs to communicate with the CPU, it sends an interrupt signal which temporarily suspends the CPU's current activity. So the main thing about the interrupt is that the suspension of the CPU, that the execution of the CPU will be stopped automatically. So there may be advantages and disadvantages of interrupts. The interrupt handler is a piece of code that manages the interrupt request, allowing the CPU to respond appropriately to the device needs. So it basically enhances the working of the computer by sending an interrupt to the central processing unit. Taking a look to an interrupts or event processing, there are the different types of interrupts as well as an overview. Event-driven processing. Interrupts play a crucial role in event-driven processing by allowing the CPU to respond to an external stimuli in a real time. Priority handling. So there may be n number of devices which are connected to the CPU, which may be sending seamless interrupts to the CPU and asking for the permission to execute. So it becomes an ambiguity to choose any one devices from the CPU. So that's how the priority works. So each devices will be assigned an specific priorities so that CPU automatically chooses the devices which are having the highest priority. And there comes the exceptional handling. So what do we mean by exceptional handling? Exceptional conditions are nothing but the errors which and usual hardware malfunctions are managed through an interrupt devices exception handling mechanisms. Coming to the interrupt hardware, the components and the functionality of the interrupt hardware. The first and foremost will be the controller, and then the next is a vector table and mask register, and as well as the interrupt request lines. So interrupt request lines are nothing but the lines which are connected to the devices as well as the central processing unit, which may be continuously seamlessly sending data to each other. And next, interrupt handling processes. We all saw that how an devices is sending an interrupt to the central processing unit. So now I'm going to explain how exactly the interrupt handling process is going on. So first and foremost, initialization will be taken. The interrupt handling process begins when a CPU receives an interrupt signal from an external device. So next, CPU will be having an history, context saving. It involves saving the current state of the CPU to ensure a smooth transition into interrupt service. Next one is the vector identification. As we saw that there is a vector table in the interrupt hardware, uh, where we where we saw the CPU identify the appropriate interrupt vector to locate the corresponding interrupt service routine. So okay, coming to the interrupt service routine, as there are advantages as well as the disadvantages of the interrupts. Uh, uh, that any interrupt may be interrupting an CPU from an important execution that has to take place. So we should develop a specific way so that the interrupts CPU in a meantime. So coming to the execution part, so interrupt service routines execute in a response to the corresponding interrupts. So CPU will be responding to the current interrupt, managing the request as well as the providing necessary information that is asked by the particular interrupt, as well as the takes a responsibility to complete the interrupt which are sent by the peripheral devices which are having the highest priority. Upon completion, the interrupt services routine return control to the control and the interrupt program flow seamlessly. So coming to an end, conclusion and key takeaways, as I explained the input-output devices, how to access them and how to manage them. And next, coming to the interrupt and interrupt hardware, we can see that the using this kind of we can make use of the organization of the input output to use of data in a efficient way. We can take the real-time responsiveness, and it improves the user interface experience to the peak level, and optimization of the device communication. So if an user enters something, and the computer should be managing the user's request. So this was my end. Thank you.